In this lecture, we'll try to make the structure of our React app a little bit minimalistic. So we'll try to make it reasonable and not very complex and lengthy, so that the user won't face any difficulty when trying to understand how it works. Okay, so as I told you before, React works like a hierarchy. It works in a hierarchical manner. So first of all, it has a parent, then it has a children, and then the children keeps on forming so long as you want it to be forming. So you can have like multiple layers, and as long as like you want it to form, it can form as long as you want it to be. So these children can be functions, can be components, and it depends on you, like what you want to create in these children. So you don't need to touch the index.html, as I told you before. In the whole React app, we use only one render, and all the code inside it runs on your browser. So if you see this small program, it has a code of 3 lines, but when we have to make our web application with different pages and content and so on and so forth, it won't be a good practice to code all of this in a function, right? So yeah, obviously, like no one does that. Obviously, you would consider making different components and will call those components when you need them. So that's how we'll try to make it a little minimalistic. Okay, so I'm removing this part. I'll put this in fragments. And now we should make one function, one component, and all the content we should call here. Okay, so whatever will be in the function will be rendered. Okay, if we remove this, then our browser is totally clear. We'll make a file and we'll name it app.js. So do you remember, like when we made the React app, then one file was formed by default with the name app.js. So that file was basically for exactly that. So you put everything in that file to call it, in order to call it with react.render. But I wanted to teach you about the basics, so that's why I deleted that file. Okay, so now I'll tell you how you can make a structure or hierarchy in the React app. And now, as you can see, I made a react.js file. So I'll write the traditional boilerplate, import React from React. You will have to write this if you want to use JSX. Yeah, like if you want to use JSX, you have to write this. So here we'll write function app and we'll write return. This is a function we've made, so we're going to export it. Okay, now we have exported it. We want to display this content at this place. We remove it here so we can display it here. Okay, I'll write import app. Now we'll call it. And now, as you can see, this is the method, and this method is better, or the previous one that we wrote all of the code in the render function. So I think this method is better actually, as we make separate components, and we'll write content there, and whatever will be inside it, I'll call it from there. So I'll call it here. Okay, now we'll go back to app.js and I will write h1 hello, how are you? I save it. Now we'll go to the browser and see the changes. So just observe how each hierarchy has been formed. So first of all, this is the parent, then we have all of these. Okay, so we can add here this as well. So for example, we go to user, we'll remove it as we're not using props. So we'll write my name is Mark, and I'll write I'm a web developer, and we've exported it here. So now we'll call it here in app.js. We'll write import from users. We'll call it. We'll put fragments here as we're using more than one. Okay, so we'll put this code in React fragment. We'll call it here and just see the changes. So its content has been displayed. Okay, do you understand how hierarchy has formed? So we had this parent and then we called it, and whatever will be present in app will be rendered. So now you can see that we call a lot of components in app, and after that you have the user. So we imported user here. So as you can see, the hierarchy has been formed. React basically works in this way, such that you make a structure in which you have a parent and have a children, and you can decide how much how far you need to go with the children, like how many components you want in a child. Okay, so you can see that it moves in a line from the top to the bottom, and the parent cannot directly access the third child. The parent moves to its first child, then that child moves to its child, then you can access the component that you need. So this is basically how it works. Alright, and now on to the next lecture. In this lecture, we'll learn how to do conditional rendering in React. So if we simply talk about JavaScript, we can use the if-else condition. But if you are talking about JSX element of React and want to do the rendering in it, then I'll not specifically go through the if-else. Let me give you an example on how we can do the conditional rendering in React. So first of all, we'll make an example file in the source folder and we'll name it test.js. So this is our test file. Now you'll make its boilerplate. So I'll write import React from React and I'll make a function with the name test. So I'm writing a return function and we'll export it by writing export default test. So before writing the code, we'll import it to our app.js file. As our browser is clear right now, I'll then write a code for button in which we'll write toggle. Okay, so now we'll make a div in app.js. Oh, sorry, so we won't write the button. Instead, we'll write the p tag. It is toggled, okay? So I'll give you an example on what we are exactly trying to do. So here I'll take the button and I'll name it toggle. Okay, so now I want that whenever I click on the button, it shows me this. And when I click again, then it won't show it to me. So basically, we do it through the conditional rendering. Okay, so we'll see the example of used state. We'll make used state, which we'll name toggle, update toggle, and then we'll put the initial value false. Now, I want that whenever I click on this button, then this component should appear. So we'll put onClick method. Okay, so as of right now, this toggle is false. So I want that whenever someone clicks on it, it's updated, like the value updates itself and becomes true. And whenever it will be true, then the toggle value will also become false. Okay, so here we won't write true, we'll write the exclamation mark toggle, not equal to toggle. So yeah, like it means that it's not equal to toggle, meaning that it should be its opposite. Whenever it is true, then it should be false. Okay, so now if I click on it, then it will be true, and if I click again, then it will turn to false. So the cycle will keep on moving back and forth from true to false. Okay, so after that you have a concept of conditional rendering. If I talk about like simple JavaScript things, then we use the if statement. But here in JSX, we can't do it this way. We'll get an error. If we try to do it that way, it will get an error, so it doesn't work. As you want that when the value of the toggle is true, then this is toggle should be displayed. So we'll write toggle and test, meaning that when the value of toggle is true, then it shows us this component. Okay, if we save it, then nothing has been displayed because our initial toggle value is false. And if we click on our button, then its value will be updated to true and will be stored in toggle. Okay, so then we'll check the condition. If the toggle will be false, then the component won't be displayed. But if the toggle is true, then the component will be displayed. Okay, so now we'll save it and we'll see in the browser. I'll click here, it becomes true. Yeah, like it became true and the component has been displayed. So if I click again, then it will disappear because the value is updated as false. So this is how conditional rendering works. Alright, and now on to the next lecture. Alright, so in this lecture, we'll talk about one more hook in React.js. In the last lecture, we learned how to use the state, which helps in state management. So there is another hook which is the use effect. So this is a very helpful hook that we use in functional components. So what does the use effect basically do? Like, remember that in React, the whole web page is rendered once. Then any new component is updated specifically, not the whole page again. So it's component by component. Okay, so if you want to make changes during rendering, then we do these changes by using effect. So let me give you an example. First of all, we'll initialize the use effect. We have to do initialize below the top function. We'll write use effect and we'll have to import it as well. So it has a callback function. Whenever anything is getting rendered, the code in use effect will run. For example, I'm clicking here, thus only this component is rendered, but other things do not change, okay? I want that when I click on it, then it gets rendered and it shows me a message on top. So you have clicked. Okay, we can do this through use effect. Okay, I'll write window.alert, I'm clicked. If I click this button, then this state will change, and when it will change, the function will run. Okay, now I'll save it and show you in the browser. As you can see, the page has reloaded. Then it got rendered the first time. So I clicked on the button again and it got rendered again, and the message has been displayed again. So this is how to use the effect, like this is how the use effect works. And yeah, it's very useful because sometimes you want any small code to run after a specific rendering. So that's pretty much it. This is how it works. And now on to the next lecture.